She had never kissed anyone, never held a boy's hand, never whispered promises under the stars. At 20, Sophia's world was books, part-time jobs, and her dream of becoming a teacher. She had been a quiet girl, one who stayed late at libraries and came home early from parties she never really wanted to attend. A virgin in every sense of the word. Yet here she was, cradling a crying newborn in her arms, scrolling through her cracked phone with trembling fingers, typing words she never imagined she would write. "Hi, James. I'm sorry to ask again. I need $45. Mia's formula is almost gone. I swear I'll pay you back Friday." She stared at the message, reading it over and over, her heart pounding with shame and desperation. Then she hit send. Her thumb hovered over the screen for a long second before the message disappeared into the digital void. Sophia sat back on the couch, her body sinking into the sunken cushions of the apartment she could barely afford. The air was cold, thin, filled with the faint scent of baby powder and the echoes of a life that no longer felt like hers. Mia whimpered again, her tiny fists balling near her face, cheeks red from crying. Sophia rocked her gently, blinking back tears. She had watered down the last of the formula earlier. She knew it wasn't good. But what choice did she have? Outside, the city was quiet. Brooklyn had fallen into a sleepy winter haze, the windows fogged slightly from her shallow breaths, and the radiator that clicked but never truly worked. Everything in her life was held together by threadbare hope. Her bank account held less than $5. Her landlord had left a note tucked under the door. Rent due. No exceptions. She couldn't ask her parents. They had disowned her sister Rose years ago and refused to even acknowledge the baby. Rose was gone now, dead just weeks after giving birth to Mia. Sophia hadn't told anyone that part. She had simply left the hospital with the baby in her arms and a lie on her lips. She said Mia was hers, that she had made a mistake and was trying to take responsibility. People judged, but no one questioned. A young girl with a baby? They all had their stories. The phone buzzed in her lap. Sophia snatched it up, hoping for a miracle. Her chest tightened when she saw the reply. "I think you have the wrong number. I'm not James." Her blood turned to ice. She stared at the digits on the screen. One wrong number, one wrong click. She had typed a 6 instead of an 8. "I'm so sorry. Please ignore that. Wrong number." She wanted to cry. Not because of the mistake, but because the simple act of asking for help had already taken every ounce of pride she had left. She tossed the phone aside and buried her face into Mia's blanket. A new message came through moments later. "Is your baby going to be okay?" Sophia froze. It was a stranger. Why did he care? She read the message again, then slowly picked up the phone with shaking hands. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. "We'll manage." She didn't owe him more than that. Another message. "I could help, no strings attached." Sophia's heart raced. She knew what those words usually meant. She had heard them whispered in corners, offers with invisible contracts behind them. She typed fast. "Thanks, but I don't take money from strangers." The reply came quickly. "Smart policy, but now I'm not a stranger. My name's Alex. What formula does your baby need?" She stared at the message, and then she made the second mistake of the night. She answered. Sophia had never meant to lie, but sometimes a lie is the only way to keep something precious safe. She stood in the small kitchen of her apartment, holding Mia in one arm while stirring a pot of boiling water with the other, her movements careful but tired. The apartment was a fourth-floor walk-up in an aging building on the edge of Brooklyn. The wallpaper peeled at the corners, the heater groaned more than it warmed, and the neighbors downstairs smoked constantly, letting the smell crawl through the vents. Still, it was a roof, and it was theirs, for now. Mia cooed softly, her small fingers curling around the edge of Sophia's shirt. She was 6 weeks old and beautiful, with a quiet strength in her eyes that reminded Sophia of her sister Rose. Rose had always been wild, too full of life and too stubborn to follow rules, and yet when she found out she was pregnant, she changed. She had looked at Sophia the night before she gave birth and said, "If anything happens, promise me you'll take care of her. I know you can." Then she had gone into labor early, and within 24 hours, she was gone. Sophia had not hesitated. When the nurse asked who would take the baby, she stepped forward and said, "She's mine. No one asked more." It was New York. People saw worse every day. She didn't correct them, didn't explain. She walked out of that hospital with Mia swaddled in a second-hand blanket, $23 in her wallet, and the feeling that her life had just cracked open. Her parents didn't take the news well. They had already severed ties with Rose years ago, blaming her for every family conflict and embarrassment. When Sophia brought the baby to their door, hoping for warmth, they gave her a sermon and shut it in her face. She walked 3 miles back to the city, with Mia pressed to her chest. Since then, she had done everything alone, juggling college classes online and working nights as a stock clerk at a 24-hour market, until they cut her hours without notice. Rent was overdue, formula was running out, and she was running out of options. The night she texted the stranger she hadn't eaten in almost a day. She told herself it was just a mistake, just desperation. She didn't expect an answer, and she certainly didn't expect him to keep writing. Alex, as he called himself, had asked what formula Mia needed. Sophia hesitated, then told him the truth. A specific brand, expensive, hard to find. She explained that Mia had a sensitive stomach, that this was the only one that didn't make her cry for hours. He asked for her payment app. She gave it, expecting nothing. Minutes later, her phone pinged. $400. She stared at the screen like it was a trick, her heart racing. She typed back quickly, saying it was too much, she couldn't accept it, but he replied simply, "Use what you need, consider it an advance for the next few weeks." That night, she bought enough formula to last a month, and a pack of diapers, and even a can of soup for herself. It was the first time she had eaten warm food in 3 days. She sat on the couch, with Mia asleep in her arms, holding the baby bottle in one hand and the phone in the other, wondering who Alex really was. His number didn't match any area code she recognized, and he never gave a last name. When she asked what he did, he said he worked in finance. Nothing else. She stopped asking. She told herself it didn't matter. But the next morning he messaged again. He asked if Mia had slept better and if Sophia had eaten. His words weren't flirtatious or invasive. They were calm, careful, curious. Over the next few days, he became a quiet presence in her phone, someone who checked in without judgment, who listened when she vented, who never asked for pictures or promises. He was kind in a way that made her nervous. Then on a Thursday afternoon, as she was folding laundry on the floor while Mia slept nearby, he sent a message that made her blood run cold. "I have a proposition for you." Her hands stopped moving. She stared at the screen, dread tightening her stomach. She had known this would come. There were always strings. She typed back, "What kind of proposition?" His reply came fast. "Professional, not personal. I run a company called Maddox Equity. We're based in Manhattan. We need temporary help on a small internal audit. Someone with basic accounting knowledge. Your sister mentioned you studied business, right?" Sophia dropped the phone. Her breath caught in her throat. "How do you know my sister?" she typed, fingers shaking. "And how do you know my major?" A pause, then another message. "Your number is 1 digit off from someone who works in my HR team, James. I mentioned your message to him. He figured out who you were. He said you've been struggling but that you're good. Really good." Sophia stared at the screen, stunned. The coincidence was too perfect. The timing, too convenient. She didn't believe in fate, but something in her chest shifted. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't a trap. Maybe it was the beginning of something else, something she wasn't ready to name. Sophia didn't answer his message right away. She stared at it for hours, rereading every word. The logic made sense. The name James was familiar. Her sister Rose had dated a guy named James years ago, and she vaguely remembered him mentioning a job in human resources at some big firm. Still, it was too much to process. The idea that a wrong number had led to this. An offer for real work? Something that could solve her rent? Buy Mia's formula? Maybe even get her back into school full-time? But something in her held back. Distrust was like second nature now. Every kind gesture came with questions. Every man who noticed her had wanted something. Even when she was invisible, she was still a target. She responded the next morning. She kept it short. "I'm interested, but I'd need flexibility. I don't have childcare." His reply came within minutes. "We offer on-site childcare and a quiet workspace near my office. You'd be in and out in 3 months. Project-based, confidential." She didn't expect a car to arrive at her door. But at 10 the next morning, a black SUV pulled up outside the apartment building. The driver stepped out, confirmed her name, and loaded her bag and Mia's carrier with practiced ease. Sophia hesitated on the sidewalk, then climbed in. The city blurred past her window. She clutched Mia tight, her heart racing. The building was a tower of glass and steel in Midtown, far too polished for someone like her. The security guard at the front desk called her by name, handed her a visitor's badge, and directed her to the top floor. Everything was smooth, too smooth. It felt scripted, like someone had rehearsed every detail in advance. She kept her head down, her grip on Mia's carrier tight. She didn't belong here. That much was obvious. A woman named Martha greeted her at the elevator. Kind, but efficient. Sophia noticed the way Martha looked at Mia, her eyes softening for just a moment before she returned to business. She led them through a quiet hallway, past glass-walled conference rooms and open lounges, to a corner suite with floor-to-ceiling windows. Sophia didn't even know where to look first. The room was elegant, but not cold. There were books on the shelves, framed photographs of landscapes and children, and in one corner, a sleek baby playpen already set up. She blinked, confused. Martha gestured to the sitting area and asked if she wanted coffee or water. "Water," Sophia said quietly. She placed Mia gently in the playpen, where the baby kicked happily at a soft toy. Then she sat on the edge of the leather couch, feeling every inch like a fraud in her second-hand blazer and scuffed flats. The door opened, and a man stepped inside, tall, with sharp features and dark hair just beginning to gray at the temples. He wore a navy suit without a tie, the top button undone, as if he'd been running between meetings but didn't want to look rushed. His eyes locked on Sophia, not with surprise, but with a strange kind of focus, as if he'd already imagined this moment. "You must be Sophia," he said, voice low and calm. "Thank you for coming." She stood awkwardly, trying to remember her manners. You're Alex?" He smiled, faintly. "Alex Maddox. And you're every bit as brave as James said." Sophia wasn't sure how to answer that. She sat again, her hands in her lap. Alex didn't sit behind his desk. He took the chair across from her, the distance intimate but not invasive. "I want to explain something," he said. "I know how strange this seems. I know it feels fast. It is fast. But the truth is, your message arrived at a time when I was already looking for someone outside the company, someone unconnected, someone clean." "Clean?" she repeated, eyebrow raised. "Not like that," he said quickly. "I mean someone untouched by the internal systems, someone with no prior ties to our team. We're preparing for a merger. Our internal audits flagged some inconsistencies, small things, but enough to raise concern." "So you want me to find mistakes in your books?" "I want you to find the person who's hiding them." Sophia glanced at Mia, still playing contentedly in the pen. "This sounds like more than just data entry." "It is. But you won't be doing it alone. You'll have access to the files, to a private workspace, everything discreet. I don't want the rest of the team to know we're reviewing things again." "Why me?" He leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on his knees. "Because you don't owe anyone here anything. You're smart. James says you're top of your class. I checked your transcript. Georgetown, full ride. You had a future before all this." She tensed. "Don't talk like you know me." "You're right," he said. "I don't. But I want to." Sophia didn't know what to say. No one had ever offered her something without asking for something else in return. No one had looked at her and seen more than the baby she carried or the struggle on her face. She studied Alex, trying to read the truth in his expression. "What's the catch?" "There's no catch," he said. "Just a risk. If you find something serious, you'll be caught in the middle of a storm. But if you do nothing, someone else gets away with theft, and I lose the company I built from the ground up. Why do you trust me? Because you were willing to beg for $45 and then apologize for it? That tells me everything I need to know." Sophia looked down at her hands. She didn't like being seen so clearly. It made her feel vulnerable. But it also made her feel, for the first time in a long time, like someone believed in her. "I want the job," she said softly. "I need it." "Then it's yours. Martha will help you get set up. Start tomorrow. And Sophia?" She met his gaze. "The money I sent, that was a gift. You don't owe me anything." She nodded, unable to find the words. As she stood to gather Mia, Alex added, "And Sophia, one more thing. Don't tell anyone why you're here, not even James. Not yet." Back in the elevator, holding Mia against her chest, Sophia felt the strangest thing. Not fear, not hope, something in between. Like standing on the edge of a bridge, wind rushing past her face, knowing the fall might break her, but still leaning forward anyway. Sophia arrived at the office the next morning dressed in the cleanest outfit she owned, her nerves a quiet storm beneath her calm expression. Mia slept peacefully in the carrier as Martha greeted her at the private entrance with a nod and a small smile. Without needing to be asked, Martha took Mia to the nursery corner, already set up in the small conference room adjacent to Alex's office. There was a crib, a soft mat with toys, and even a bottle warmer. Everything had been arranged as if they had known exactly what Mia needed. Sophia placed her bag beside the desk and sat down in front of the two monitors already set up with secure access to the financial systems of Maddox Equity. There was a sticky note on the screen. "Let the numbers talk." That was all it said. She logged in, adjusted her seat, and began working. For the first few days, things were quiet. The office around her buzzed with energy but never reached her secluded corner. Alex stopped by once or twice each day, checking on her progress without pressing, asking occasionally about Mia, who seemed to smile more around him than anyone else. Sophia noticed the way he looked at the baby, not with pity, but something deeper, more complicated, like grief softened by time. She kept her focus on the spreadsheets, searching for patterns, for any trace of the discrepancies he had mentioned. Most of it seemed clean, too clean. After 5 days, she noticed a strange repetition in the Thompson acquisition files. Small adjustments, nothing glaring, but always just under the threshold that would require executive review. The numbers didn't lie, but they were being made to whisper instead of scream. She compiled a report and flagged the entries, noting the names attached. The final sign-off on each transaction belonged to the same executive, Vincent Harmon, the company's chief financial officer. She paused, rereading the name. It meant something. Rose had once mentioned that name in a different context, casually over coffee before Mia was born. A man who had helped her get a job in corporate operations briefly before she vanished from Sophia's life during the final months of her pregnancy. The connection chilled her. She closed the files and backed everything up to a private drive. That evening, when Alex stopped by, she told him what she found. He took the folder from her hands, flipping through the printed pages with a dark look in his eyes. "This is more than I expected," he said. "Are you sure about these patterns?" Sophia nodded, her throat tight. "I checked them 3 times. It's systematic, deliberate, and designed to stay hidden." Alex leaned back against the desk, running a hand through his hair, his jaw clenched. "You can't tell anyone else about this. Not even James. Especially not Vince." Sophia's eyebrows lifted slightly. "You think he's involved?" "I think he's the one orchestrating it," Alex replied, his voice low. "But if we confront him without proof, he'll spin it and bury us both. Let me handle the next step." Sophia left the office that night with more questions than answers. She took Mia home, bathed her, fed her, and stared at the ceiling for hours. Why had Rose mentioned Vincent before? Was it possible she had known something? Had she been silenced? Sophia felt the cold fingers of doubt brush her spine. She couldn't sleep. Instead, she opened her laptop and began cross-referencing public business records with internal documents. She followed the trail of shell companies and redirect accounts, tracing them back as far as 2 years. Every path led back to one name, Vincent Harmon. The next day, she arrived at the office early, determined to show Alex the full scope of what she had uncovered. But his office was dark. Unusual. He was always in before anyone else. A message pinged on her screen just as she was about to call him. "Emergency board meeting. Use the time to finalize your report. We'll talk later." She tried to ignore the tightening in her chest. Mia gurgled beside her, content with her morning bottle. Sophia dove into the spreadsheets, refining her report. Just before lunch, a shadow passed the frosted glass wall. She turned. Vincent Harmon stood in the doorway. He stepped inside without invitation, his smile too practiced, his gaze sharp. "Ms. Baker, I hear you're doing some special work for Alex. Hard at work, I see." She minimized her screen instinctively, Just helping out, nothing exciting. Vincent's eyes flicked toward Mia, who was watching him with surprising stillness. Convenient arrangement, he said, glancing around. Private office, bring your child to work? Alex must think very highly of you. His tone carried the faintest hint of something accusatory. Sophia's jaw tightened. He values efficiency, and I found some inconsistencies worth exploring. I'm sure you have, Vincent said, his voice smooth. Just remember, Miss Baker, Maddox Equity was doing just fine before you arrived, and it'll continue long after your contract ends. He laughed without waiting for her response. Her hands were shaking. She had never felt so directly threatened in her life. Vincent knew something. Worse, he suspected her. She called Alex immediately, but the call went to voicemail. Minutes later, her phone rang. Unknown number, she answered cautiously. Miss Baker, this is Detective Russo from the Financial Crimes Division. We've been made aware of irregularities in Maddox Equity's accounts. I'd like to ask you a few questions. Sophia froze. What can I help with? She asked, her voice barely steady. We'd prefer you come in this afternoon. It's best to do this in person. She agreed, hung up, and sat motionless for several minutes. Mia fussed beside her. Sophia blinked, then quickly gathered the files into a locked drawer, grabbed her bag, and took Mia home. She needed space to think. That afternoon, Alex returned to the office. She met him at the door. The police called me, she said without preamble. They want to question me, and Vincent was here making veiled threats. Alex looked stricken, then furious. Damn it, he muttered. It's happening faster than I expected. He shut the office door and turned to her. I need to tell you something, and I need you to trust me. Sophia's heart thudded painfully. Am I being set up? Are you using me? No, he said, eyes fierce. The opposite. I've been working with the FBI for months. Vincent's not just embezzling. He's laundering money through international subsidiaries. We couldn't find a clean way in. Then your message came. I didn't plan that, but once I realized who you were and what you could do, I saw an opportunity. You targeted me, Sophia whispered, betrayal blooming in her chest. You used my desperation. I gave you a real job, Alex said. A job you're damn good at. I made a calculated decision, yes, but everything since then, every message, every protection, that was real. You and Mia matter to me. Before she could answer, Martha burst through the office door, something she had never done. Alex, they're here, word security. And police. They're saying you've been embezzling. They have a warrant, and they mentioned Miss Baker as an accomplice. Sophia felt the air leave her lungs. Alex's face turned to stone. Get her out of here, he told Martha. Use the private elevator. Take her to the safe house, now. Sophia grabbed Mia and her bag. What about you? She asked as he opened a hidden panel behind his bookshelf. I'll buy time. Stay hidden until I contact you, and Sophia. I'm sorry for not being honest from the start, but I swear the way I feel about you and Mia, that's the only honest thing I've known in a long time. Then the door closed behind her, and everything she thought she understood about her life shattered in silence. The safe house was a modest apartment tucked in a quiet building far from Midtown, with neutral walls, clean sheets, and a stocked fridge that smelled like someone had cleaned it just minutes before they arrived. Martha moved like she'd done this 100 times, placing formula in the cabinet, laying out fresh clothes for Mia, checking windows, locks, and phone signals. Sophia stood in the middle of the living room, still holding Mia, her arms stiff, her mind refusing to catch up to reality. This is insane, she said finally. Martha looked at her and replied evenly, so is corruption on this scale. Alex was ready for this. He's been ready for months. Sophia placed Mia into the crib in the corner, watching the baby sleep as if nothing had changed, as if the world hadn't suddenly tilted off its axis. She turned to Martha. Tell me the truth. Was any of this real? Martha's expression softened. Finding you was luck. Using you was a strategy. But how Alex looks at you, how he talks about Mia, that's not something you fake. You didn't just give him information. You gave him something he thought he'd never feel again. Hope. Sophia sat down slowly, overwhelmed. She didn't trust Easy, not after what life had done to her, not after watching Rose die alone, not after being left to raise a child with nothing but instinct and fear. But there was something in Alex's eyes, something behind the careful CEO mask that had never looked at her like she was weak or foolish or broken, only capable and worth protecting. They stayed in the apartment all night. No messages, no updates. Sophia barely slept, her body tense at every sound outside the window. The next morning, her phone buzzed from an unfamiliar number. "Are you safe?" she typed back carefully. "Yes." "Is this Alex?" "It's me. Had to ditch my phone. Police took everything but released me for now. Vincent's trying to frame me, make it look like I created the shell company." "What happens next?" she asked. "Now we use what you found. My contact at the FBI is meeting us tomorrow, 10 a.m. If you're willing, I want you there. You understand the data better than anyone." Sophia looked at Mia, then at her laptop, then back at the message. She could run. She had enough money now. She could disappear. But running meant letting Vincent get away with everything. It meant Alex would stand alone. "I'll be there," she replied. The next morning, Sophia left Mia in Martha's care and met Alex at a bland government building in downtown Manhattan. He looked tired, bruised beneath the eyes, but the second he saw her, he smiled like she was the first solid ground in weeks. "You came," he said. "I almost didn't," Sophia admitted. He nodded. "I wouldn't have blamed you." They entered a conference room where a woman from the FBI, Agent Keller, greeted them with sharp eyes and no wasted words. Sophia walked her through the report she'd built, showing the connections between the diverted funds, the shell companies, and Vincent sign-offs. Keller listened closely, nodding occasionally, then said, "This is what we needed. We're going to move fast. The board meeting is this afternoon. Vincent plans to accuse Alex and introduce evidence. We'll be there when he does." Sophia's heart raced. "And me? You'll come in after. We need him to lie while we're in the room. Then we confront him with the truth." Hours later, they stood behind a two-way mirror, watching as the Maddox Equity Board gathered in a glass-walled conference room. Vincent stood at the head of the table, calm, collected, passing out folders. "It pains me to bring this to you," he began, "but the evidence is clear. Alexander Maddox, with assistance from an outside contractor, has been embezzling funds through shell accounts." Sophia's name was printed on the folder. Her face burned. Alex sat across from Vincent, expression unreadable. "That's a serious accusation," he said. "Do you have proof?" "The proof is in the numbers," Vincent replied, "and I believe you'll find them compelling." That was the signal. Agent Keller opened the door, stepping inside with two agents at her back. Sophia followed, her knees shaking. The board turned as one, stunned. Vincent froze. "Miss Baker, how convenient," he said coldly. "Here to defend your benefactor?" "Actually," Sophia said, her voice stronger than she expected, "I'm here to explain how you've been stealing from this company for over a year and a half." She handed the agents her printed report, then walked the board through her findings page by page, tracing every number, every false ledger, every shell account. She didn't look at Vincent until the very end. "The pattern begins 3 weeks after you were promoted," she said, "and the shell companies are registered to a trust you control." Vincent's face went pale. He stood suddenly, then lunged across the table. Something silver flashed in his hand. Sophia flinched, but Alex moved faster, stepping between them. A scuffle, shouting. Then Vincent was on the ground, pinned by agents. Blood darkened Alex's sleeve. "Alex!" she gasped, rushing to him. "It's fine, just a scratch," he said, though his face was tight with pain. "I'll need a new shirt, but I've had worse board meetings." 3 hours later, Vincent was in custody, along with 2 board members who had helped cover for him. Sophia sat beside Alex in his office, watching Mia chew happily on a new stuffed elephant Martha had brought. "So, what now?" she asked. "Do professionally damage control the company will survive?" "Personally," he paused, "that depends on you. Your contract has 2 months left, but I want to offer you a permanent role. Head of Internal Audit, reporting directly to the board." Sophia blinked. "That's a lot." "You earned it," Alex said. "You caught what everyone else missed. You helped save this company." Sophia looked at Mia, then back at him. "And the daycare? A spot just opened, but she's welcome in my office any time." He hesitated, then added, "I know how this started was messy. I manipulated a situation to bring you here. But everything since, getting to know you, watching you with Mia, that's been the most real thing I've felt in years." Sophia's chest tightened. She wasn't ready to say yes to all of it. Not yet. But she was willing to try. "I need time," she said. "Of course," Alex replied. "Take all you need." 6 months later, at the company's annual holiday event, Sophia stood near the stage as her team was recognized for implementing new audit protocols. Mia, now walking, toddled between her and Alex, who held her small hand with ease. "Ready?" he whispered. Sophia nodded. The ring on her fingers sparkled under the lights. They had taken it slow, built trust the hard way, step by step. The board knew, the staff knew. There were no secrets left, and that, for once, felt like freedom. That night, back in their new apartment, she tucked Mia into bed and whispered, "Some mistakes don't break us. They lead us home." 2 weeks after the holiday party, everything should have felt perfect. But perfection had never been part of Sophia's story, and something inside her still waited for the ground to shift again. She had started to feel safe, to trust the way Alec looked at her, like she was more than just a survivor, more than just the girl who happened to send a text to the right wrong number. She had started to believe in their future, not just for herself, but for Mia too, and that belief scared her more than anything else, because the last time she believed in something, it had cost her everything. She sat by the window of their apartment one night, watching snow fall outside in delicate silence, while Mia slept in the next room and Alex worked late as usual. Her phone buzzed, a number she hadn't seen in over a year. The message was short: "You need to know the truth about Rose." Her heart stopped. It was from a contact saved under an old nickname, Clover, a name Rose once used when she didn't want people to know who she really was. Sophia stared at the message, not knowing whether to reply. Then another message came. "She didn't die the way you think. Meet me, don't tell him." She didn't know what she hated more, how the message made her doubt Alex, or how it cracked open the coffin she had closed on Rose's death. She told herself not to go. But the next night, she was standing on a cold street corner in Queens, coat pulled tight, a scarf around her neck, scanning the sidewalk for someone she hadn't seen in years. A man approached, older than she remembered, with gray at his temples and a limp in his step. It was Carter, Rose's ex-boyfriend, the one everyone thought had left when she got pregnant. He didn't smile. He looked tired, hollowed out. "Carter," she said, barely above a whisper. He nodded. "I didn't want to find you. I almost didn't. But when your story went public, when the board cleared your name and you became some kind of quiet hero, I saw your face again. I knew I owed you the truth." Sophia swallowed hard. "What truth?" "Rose didn't die in childbirth," he said. "Not directly. She was fine after the delivery. I was there. She held the baby, smiled, said she wanted to name her Mia. I left for 10 minutes to get food. When I came back, she was gone. Vanished. The nurse said she checked herself out. No one had seen her since. They said she must have gone into the cold and collapsed, but no autopsy, no investigation. I tried to find her, but no one helped. The hospital didn't answer calls. Then I started getting threats." Sophia's body went still. "Threats? From who? From someone tied to the company Rose worked at?" he said, pulling out a folded envelope from his coat. "I found this hidden in her things. It's a ledger. Handwritten notes. The same fake company names you talked about in the press. She was on to them before anyone else. She tried to stop it. And I think they silenced her." Sophia's legs weakened. The sidewalk spun. She took the envelope with shaking fingers. This didn't make sense. Why would Alex hide something like this? Or had he? Carter grabbed her arm gently. "I don't think your guy is clean. That money he gave you, the way he took you in, doesn't it feel like a setup?" Sophia pulled away, her voice cracking. "You don't know him." "I don't," Carter said, "but I know what fear looks like, and I know when people are trying to bury a story." She returned home late, shaking, tucking the envelope into her bag without opening it. When Alex came in, smiling, holding takeout, she forced a smile and said nothing. Days passed. She tried to act normal, but everything felt sharper, like walking through glass barefoot, pretending not to bleed. She watched him closer, the way he hesitated before meetings, the way he deflected questions. One afternoon she asked, directly, "Did you ever meet Rose?" Alex froze. Briefly, a flicker in his eyes. "Once," he said slowly. "She interviewed here." "Briefly. Didn't take the job. Why?" Sophia nodded, her stomach a knot. "Just curious." But the next night, when he was asleep, she opened the envelope. Inside was a list. Names, transactions, the fake companies, handwritten calculations, and a final page, "If something happens to me, this is why." Her breath caught. It was in Rose's handwriting. She scanned the pages until she found a name at the bottom she hadn't expected. Maddox Equity. Tears burned in her eyes. If Alex knew this from the beginning, he hadn't told her. If he didn't, then someone else inside his company had killed her sister. Either way, she had been pulled into this web not by accident, but by blood. She printed the papers, took them to Agent Keller, told her everything. The next day, Alex called her into his office. He was pacing, his face pale. "You went to Keller?" "Yes," Sophia said. "I had to." He looked heartbroken. "Sophia, I didn't know. I swear. I knew your sister's name came up in old files, but I didn't know she died because of this. I thought she just left. I thought the hospital story was true." She stepped back. "How can I believe that?" "Because I love you," Alex said, his voice breaking. "Because everything I've done since that message, I did to protect you." "But you lied," she whispered. "You kept her name from me, even if you didn't know the rest." He didn't deny it. He looked at Mia instead, now asleep in her carrier beside the window. Then he turned to Sophia. "You want to leave? I won't stop you. But I need you to know, this doesn't end here. Whoever silenced your sister, they're still out there. And I'm going to find them. With or without you." She left his office without a word. That night, she packed. She held Mia against her chest, heartbreaking. But when she reached the door, she stopped. Mia stirred in her arms, sleepy, soft, safe. Sophia turned back, her voice barely a breath. "We don't run, not this time." She unpacked the bag, sat at her desk, and started digging again. In the weeks that followed, Sophia worked quietly but relentlessly, poring over every connection between Rose's final notes and the internal systems of Maddox Equity, aided by Agent Keller and a small circle of forensic auditors who trusted no one outside their sealed room, while Alex kept the company afloat in public, attending meetings, shaking hands, pretending not to notice that the woman he loved had moved into a guest apartment 3 floors below his own, still in the building but far from his heart. And yet he respected the distance, because he knew that love built on half-truths couldn't survive the long road ahead. The deeper they went, the clearer it became that the corruption hadn't ended with Vincent Harmon's arrest. There had been others, quieter, smarter, people who had used Rose's discovery as a blueprint for how to erase her, and now they were coming undone, one thread at a time, under Sophia's steady hands. Then, one quiet Friday morning, the break came. A recorded call surfaced, hidden in archived server backups, Rose's voice trembling but determined as she confronted an unnamed executive, and in the background, faint but unmistakable, was another voice, one Sophia had heard in passing, in meetings, on old investor calls. It was the company's former general counsel, a man who had resigned just days after Rose's death. The recording was enough to reopen Rose's case. Keller called Sophia personally. "This changes everything," she said. "You're not just her sister. You're the reason she'll finally be heard." Sophia sat in silence after the call, Mia asleep in her arms, Alex waiting across the room, unsure whether to approach. Then Sophia looked at him, not with anger, not with fear, but with a deep, aching clarity. "You didn't kill her," she said, "but you kept the truth buried, and I needed you to fight for her like you fought for me." Alex's eyes filled with tears he didn't wipe away. "I didn't know how," he said, "until you showed me." She stood slowly, crossed the space between them, and placed Mia in his arms. "She looks at you like she already knows. You'll never let her fall." "That's what I want for her. That's what Rose wanted." He held the baby like she was made of light, his voice barely steady. "I'll spend the rest of my life honoring her. And you." Sophia nodded. "Then start by helping me finish this." Together, they faced the media storm, the lawsuits, the government hearings. Alex stepped aside as CEO, naming Sophia Interim Chief Integrity Officer, a new role built around accountability and transparency. She declined the official title at first, then accepted on one condition. She would stay only until the company no longer needed her. to remind them of who they almost became. Mia grew in the sunlight of a world where her mother had turned tragedy into justice, and one spring afternoon, as cherry blossoms bloomed outside the courthouse, the truth about Rose's death was read into public record, her voice restored, her legacy protected. That night, Sophia sat with Alex on their apartment balcony, Mia asleep inside, the city below humming with quiet life. She leaned into him slowly, her head on his shoulder. "I still don't know if I believe in fate," she said, "but I believe in what we made from the wreckage." Alex kissed her forehead. "Sometimes the wrong number is the only one that leads you home." And as the stars brightened overhead, Sophia whispered, "Not every beginning needs to make sense, as long as the ending does."